welcome to our Thursday morning trading session. And we're looking at the NASDAQ here, as usual. And just a quick little recap, we'll take a look here. Yesterday's trading really quite range bound. The morning session in a little bit of a decline, and then by the afternoon they recovered everything, brought the market back to the highs of the morning, and here we are opening way down here. So we've got a rather substantial opening gap right through there. Almost looks like the market may try to get into there. Right now we don't really have a signal to take advantage of, but the market did just open. Andres, I'm glad you're in the room this morning. Got an email from Andres yesterday regarding the Raptor settings. So this will save me a whole lot of typing if you want to pay attention to how we adjust the Raptor settings. So first off, for 99% of the markets you are going to trade, the stock settings, the default settings, will work just fine. The only time you need to be concerned about adjusting your settings is if you open up your chart and you see, daybreak lines that look like this, where you're not getting enough going on within each session to actually make it tradable. This is likely to happen in markets that tend to make smaller daily ranges, like some of the grain markets, or markets that trade at a higher tick value, in particular the E-mini S&P and the bonds, the 30-year bonds. For those markets, you're going to need to adjust the size of the brick and adjust the Raptor settings in order to produce more signals. So the first thing you need to do is you need to change your brick size. So you can right click on your chart and you can go to your data series, and you'll want to set your brick size at 4 ticks. Next, you'll go to your indicator window, find your Raptor in the indicator assortment, and then where it says cloud setup, you're going to change the default values to a 6 and a 4, and then for your hawk bars, you're going to change that to a 4 as well. And that's it. There's nothing more to change. Well, actually, while you're here, you may want to change the signal parameters for the soft edge signal. By default, they say 1.01. However, I'm finding that 1.25 tends to work pretty well for most markets. In fact, I may ask Ben to change that default value. And that's it. That's all there's to it. Click apply or OK, and you will have a chart that is faster. What we're doing when we're changing the settings this way is we're trying to keep the chart looking nice and smooth. If you merely change the brick size without changing the clouds, you'll find that the clouds get very choppy and very difficult to interpret. So we want to keep things nice and smooth. We want to keep them looking like a normal chart, and I'm using air quotes when I say normal. Like I say, if you're ever in doubt of what your chart should look like, just take a look at like a NASDAQ chart or a crude oil chart or practically any other market, the YM. The only popular market that you're going to need to make those adjustments for is the E-mini S&P. I do run them also when I'm trading soybeans. I put it on the faster market. And that's because both those markets trade at 12.50 a tick. I think that's the deal breaker there. All right, we're getting a couple counter trend signals. We've got a trend change signal already here in the Falcon. So we produced our trend change signal. We did not engage it just yet. We're kind of retreating from it, but there is a viable signal. I don't know, is it worth trying to play the market gap? All right, I'll throw that in there. And Andres is asking, what are the default settings again? So we've got an 8-tick brick on the default. And just a moment. Oh, they're not going to give me my counter trend signal just yet. There's the counter trend. Oh, they slipped me a tick here too. Stinkers. Okay, Andres, I'll get to your default setting question in just a moment. Just allow me to deal with these two trades that we have. So we've got a counter trend trade and a with trend trade in the Falcon and the Raptor. Oh, it looks like we had a first micro macro cross as well here in the Hawk. So the market pressing higher, looking as though it may try to get into that gap, that opening range gap. Counter trend trades or trend change signals always a little dicey. Oh, you're not disturbing, Andres. Don't apologize for asking questions. That's the only way you guys are going to learn, if you ask me questions about stuff you don't know. Hopefully you'll learn the good stuff and avoid the bad stuff. Excuse me, sorry about that, folks. All right, so I'm waiting for the buyers to make their way back here. Okay, so the defaults, let me bring up another chart here. Okay, so the defaults, we have an 8-tick brick. Right, so we have an 8-tick brick. And then if we go to the indicator window, on the Raptor, we've got a 12-tick cloud, an 8-tick cloud, and a 6-tick hawk. And the default for the soft edge will be 1.01. But like I said, I've been having good results with the 1.25, so that's my default. Now, Andres is asking, cloud bricks must differ 1.5 times. I've never considered that. Like I said, I've never done it as a rule, but yeah, they probably do. In order to maintain that look, that there's probably that 1.5 time relationship in there. Floyd says the mid cap's making another nice move. I may have to get serious about putting the mid cap up here. David's asking, is there an easy way to duplicate charts, or is creating each one a matter of file, new chart, crude oil, load chart, and then template? Yeah, that's it, David. So what you want, once you have your charts set up the way you like them, do yourself a favor and save the template. Give it a name. Likewise, when you're working with your trade manager and you have your trade manager set up the way you like, you know, with your break-even triggers and your favorite stop strategy as your default and whatever else you like. If you like to change the colors or make things brighter or you know, change the fonts, whatever changes you have made, when you come down here to Template Manager, click here and give it a name and then press Enter. And you will have saved your template. That way, next time you load a chart, oh, it's not going to let me do it. There will be a drop-down menu here, and you can simply load all those settings for your trade manager onto your chart. Saves you a whole lot of time. Oh dear, see, now we're getting a with trend signal, and I'm kind of stuck with my little counter trend trade. Iden is asking, Eric, we're below the midline here at 56.72 3/4. So does that make you a little bit more bearish today? Yes, I suppose it does. The midline, or here I'll show you here on the Falcon because it tends to show these things a little better. couple fewer lines on there. So this midline does tend to set the bias for the morning or for the day. So when the market is below here, yes, we're going to be a little bit more bearish. When it's above, we're going to tend to be a little bit more bullish. Now that's just a rule of thumb. You can see that it can drift below and then it can come back. Well, yesterday was just a very, very sideways sort of day. Well, this all happened during the pre-market. Here we go. We opened here. We're above, and you can see the market put in a very strong rally. But as a rule of thumb, yes. Oh dear, it looks like they're going to try to run my stops now. Scoundrels. Are you really not going to give me a chance to adjust that stop? Tony asks, is there a reset for the default if you've been messing around with the settings? No, you're pretty much left to either build a new chart or, remove the trade manager. If you've been messing around with the trade manager, what you would do is you would click remove, and then you reapply your trade manager, and then you go here to your load, and then you load your template. Well, the buyers showed up and not a moment too soon. David's asking, is there a chart template called Raptor ESNQ? No, but you can certainly make one. In mine, I have my Raptor 2. I have my Raptor Fast. Those are my faster settings. I forget what these are. I'm going to have to go through all these one day. My collection of templates over the years. I really ought to go through those and clean those out. All right, so things not looking all that promising right now. Oh, David saying there is already a Raptor template called NSEQ. Well, I don't know what that one does. I did not get that. And I'm just about to get spanked. Okay, so we've got obviously a market that is trying to head a little bit lower here this morning. And, we got a trend change signal. I'll wait for perhaps a second push opportunity. We've got the first micro macro cross lower, and this is our first in sync eagle signal. Let's just see how far along that one is. So it's not quite to the profit objective just yet, but it is looking like a seller's market today, or at least out of the open. We're actually seeing some pretty decent follow through off that. Off of this opening signal. I guess I got a little bit too cute doing the counter trend. Well, the seller's got a pretty good push going here. So, just out of curiosity, did the first micro macro cross higher hit its profit target? It did. And then, of course, the first micro macro cross lower, well, that's just a runaway right now. I suppose this is one of those trades I could have reversed on myself. After I got stopped, I suppose I could have hit the sell market button. But that's okay. We have a little bit of a better idea now. If the market's not going to go up, then it is likely to try to go down, is it not? David's having a little bit of an issue. He says, how do I get rid of all these chart annotations? Yes, I know. Aren't those annoying? So what you need to do to turn those on and off is right-click on your chart, go to your data series, pull down here to where it says plot executions. You'll want to change that from text and marker to do not plot. So once again, that's under the data series that you can turn those on and off. So that was a very strong move lower. Just kind of watching and waiting. We might get a counter trend signal here on the Raptor. That's about the only signal really that's likely to produce. The Falcon may flip over quickly, and we may get an opportunity there. Yeah, it looks like Tony got bid on that counter trend move as well. I know, guess what I wrote in my journal, and I put a big star beside. Don't do counter trend trades out of the open. Oh, that gap is just so tempting to try to get in there. That's part of the reason why the market tailed off as quickly as it did too. So where are we? So here's the market open right here. A lot of traders are looking at that gap above the market, yours truly included, and they're thinking, oh, well, I'll just buy. And a lot of traders will put their stops here, but more than likely, most of them put their stops down here as well. So the market tries to rally, and then it starts to fall. It gets a little bit of support here out of the low of the morning. This is where some exit stops would have been for the buyers as well. And if you're a buyer, your exit stop, of course, is a sell order. So what happens when these guys start to get hit? Oh, boom, 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 down she comes. This is where the buyers start to dig in again, and then what happens? The sellers run them over and make them all exit. So part of the reason this ran down this way is traders got trapped on the wrong side of the market, and that ended up putting in a rally. Whenever you see a substantial move like this, it's almost always due to a trader getting, or traders getting caught on the wrong side of a trade. If you look at it, what happened before that big move, you'll always notice that there was some buying and a failure, or in a downtrend, the reverse. There would be some selling and a failure before the big rally up. And it's the traders that think, oh, prices need to go higher or prices need to go lower. The challenge now is going to be being patient enough for another opportunity. The market obviously strong to the short side. A little bit of a pullback is likely. We got a trendline touch signal here in the Falcon, which is a doable signal, but you need to cover this trade pretty much above the high of the day. Wow, and they just keep on going. Oh, good for you, Tony. Making back a little bit. Tony says I picked up a quick 20 ticks on crude oil. Nicely done. So it does look like we do have a little bit of buying support come in, maybe. This one, I tell you, if you're trying to swing this out for bigger profits, you need nerves of steel today. Okay, I'll stay with the Raptor here because the other tools aren't going to produce a counter trend signal. The Raptor very well might. And I know I said that word, counter trend. Could be a little profit taking going on though. If you are considering a counter trend trade, do yourself a favor. I think all in, all out is the way to go. we've got a little bit of a macro pullback here, working a possible late filter entry. So a couple of setups brewing. Like I said, sometimes the hardest thing to do as a trader is just sit there and wait. Waiting's not much fun, I'm afraid. Tony asks, Eric, do you see any advantage to having separate accounts? For example, you short the NASDAQ and you're waiting for a swing to reverse. You want to scalp the NASDAQ while you're waiting. You know, Tony, if you're trading a large account, then yeah, go ahead, split them up. If you're trading a smaller account, it's probably not worth it. If you're trading a smaller account, you should probably be a little pickier about your trades anyhow. Should probably only be in one position at a time. That's my opinion, for what it's worth. Okay, well, we're waiting here. David's asking if I can show how to trade the Raptor on an equity, maybe on Apple, how I would set it up. Let me see if I can get Apple in my data feed first of all. I used to be able to get Apple, but for whatever reason it's not plotting right now. 1 second, I'm going to see if I can get it on the delayed data. Okay, I hope this doesn't mess something up. We'll see here in a second. I've got a freebie account through Kinetic, but they delay the data 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something. Okay, so here is Apple. Yeah, we're not missing anything yet, or are we? A very loose kind of 4-arrow consolidation. The first arrow did not print, but it is still a signal if you wanted to consider it a 4-arrow consolidation here in the Hawk. The Falcon trying to work a trend change. The problem I'm having with all these is where am I going to cover the trade? I probably would enter below that little swing right there rather than enter on the hash mark. I'd have to cover at least to the crest and the macro line. And hopefully it will head a little bit higher here and I won't even need to worry about it. It does look as though we're going to print a counter trend trade in the Falcon. Well, actually, technically the Falcon, it will be a trend change signal. And here on the Hawk now, oh, I thought I saw a green bar there. We almost had a green bar sell. There it is. So what's interesting about the green bar sell, that is our counter trend signal for the Hawk. We can look to take it with trend, of course. Or we can look to buy the failure. Oh, the green bar disappeared. Okay, now we definitely have a 4-arrow consolidation in the Hawk here. Ay, 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 ay. Not really giving me a warm fuzzy feeling, but I wonder if I can scalp out of that with a couple of bucks. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 arrows. Again, I'm using the last little swing point here for an entry rather than the hash mark itself. And even though I've placed my stop up there, I'm very likely going to roll my stop down very quickly here. And there we go. Hit the break even. Come on. We'll roll that. Oh, and we hit the, did we hit the profit target? Yes, we did. Hit the profit target before I could move it. And that's probably a good thing. Because just when I think, you know, it might be time to run that trade out, no, Eric, just take your profit target. All right. Back to David's question here about stocks, the stock market. When you're trading the stock market, and yes, you can use the DTS system and the Raptor to trade the stock market. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Mike Filigera likes to do that exact thing. A lot of times he'll concentrate on the eagle. But what you're doing when you're looking at your stock chart is, again, you want to see how your daybreak lines fall, right? So there's the end of the session. Here's some of the overnight. So you can see we're, okay, that's not bad. That's about, excuse me, about 2 screens wide. Pardon me. After that, what you want to do is you want to check the time bar across the bottom. And you want to compare that with the signals. Are the signals getting any follow through? Are they unfolding so quickly that you can't even do anything with it? So you should, unless you're trading the pre-market, you can pretty much ignore those things over there. But let's take a look at the market hours themselves. So it looks like the spacing is not too bad time-wise. They're unfolding at a pretty good rate, but not so fast that you can't make any decisions about them, and it looks like the follow-through is pretty good. So these are your stock Raptor settings, by the way. Oh, and I do have the tested the extreme dialed up a little bit. So at least for Apple, I don't know if I'd make any changes with it. If the time bar was starting to, if I was starting to get too many bars relative to the time bar, and what I mean by that is if you look at the pre-market here, something happened about an hour before the open. There must have been some sort of report released, and you see here 541, 541, 541, all the way through here. All these bars sprang up in the space of a minute. All those bars right there. If this happened consistently, then that tells me that the bar size is too small. Things are unfolding too quickly. And a larger brick size would help shrink things up. But yeah, right now for Apple anyways, the brick size looks okay. Let's see, I've got Facebook on here. Let's see if I can pull up Facebook. And the same thing. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to compare the session break lines. You want to see how big each day is, how many bars there are. And okay, that's not bad. It's like Apple, it's about 2 screens wide. And then you're going to want to take a look at the signals themselves and compare them with the time chart underneath. And just make sure things are not unfolding so quickly that you can't make a decision about the trade. A little bit faster than the Apple chart, but you're still getting at least a couple, 3 minutes between signals. It's just that sometimes you need a little bit of time to look at the market, to filter what's going on, to make a decision. But the follow-through is very nice. All right, so it looks like for Facebook, the default settings would probably work pretty well also. Okay, David, I wasn't aware that they're including 3 templates with the Raptor now. David's asking, which default template do I choose from? I guess there's one for Futures Forex and that strange one, which was probably the equity. Just try each of them. When in doubt, use the Futures one because that's the only one I have. The Forex one, honestly, I don't know what the tweak would be. It's simple enough to check the settings though, right? So just build 3 charts, put 1 template on each, and then just go look at what the differences are in the settings. It's easy enough. Just find your Raptor and scroll through and see if the brick sizes are different colors or different sizes. If the hard edge parameters and soft edge parameters are different. I have a feeling there's not that many changes between them. What might be different is the default brick size and maybe the odd tweak in the settings themselves, but like I say, it's a pretty simple matter to compare them. David asks, do you prefer the wrinkle bars to price candles across the board on all securities? Yes. You can trade regular candles if you want. I know one of our DTS owners, he couldn't get tick data, so he was trading a 3-minute chart. Or maybe it was a 1-minute chart. But at any rate, the signals still work. It's a different look. Personally, I prefer the mean wrinkle bars. But it will work on pretty much any chart style, except for something exotic like point and figure or whatever. The programming will still work. My personal preference for the DTS system, however, is to stay with the mean wrinkle bars. I'm not somebody who tends to tweak a lot of stuff. I used to be. Oh, I could tweak indicators with the best of them. Okay, you see how we're starting to break up here a little bit? We're starting to get some yellow bars. That's suggestive that there's a struggle to the short side. Gosh, do I dare try another counter trend trade? I'm a little gun shy now. All right, we'll put that on hold for just a moment. Yellow bars spoiling the signal here on the hawk. Okay, so what do we think? I'm thinking we're going to see a little rally here. All right, I'm not going to get a signal here on the Falcon. The Hawk may develop into a green bar sell that I can buy, or it may even develop into a first micro macro cross higher. I get a feeling I might get a soft edge buy signal here. That's the number 2 signal on the Raptor. I'm not going to get too crazy here though, because it may also develop into a hard edge bounce, which is the continuation signal. Floyd asks, are there any drawbacks to trading the 6E? It looks very illiquid. No, no drawbacks. Other than as the morning goes on, you need to remember that it's almost closing time in Europe, right? They're almost ready to button things up there. So if you're going to trade the 6E, do it earlier rather than later, because things will tend to get a little bit quiet as we finish the morning session here in North America. That's going to almost coincide with the close of the London session. No, sellers still hard at it. Okay, well, we'll just put this back on the shelf here for a moment while we wait for the next setup. David's asking, okay, now listen, folks. I'm getting a few of you here apologizing for asking questions. Stop it. I am here to answer your questions. This is all part of you being a DTS or a Raptor owner. We recognize that this is a substantial investment. So you don't need to be timid about asking questions. I encourage you to ask questions. David says, great interview yesterday with the nice folks over at Squawk Radio. Well, thank you, David. It's always fun doing the Squawk Radio segments. It's something a little bit different. David also asks, for a new trader to NinjaTrader and Indicator Warehouse add-ons, can you please bullet the steps referencing URLs where we can find the best educational data and how to advise expediting that home study journey. The members area has a lot of information. I mean a lot of information. Almost overwhelmingly so. But that's a good place to start. The other thing, and I think this is going to cut your learning curve down dramatically, is just to use your software. Go into sim mode and play with it a little bit. So, see what happens when you change your risk percent on your trades. Let's say we dial it up to 4%. See how that changes things. Play with your targets. See what happens when you enter different targets. I'm going to dial this back down to 2% because I think we might get a signal here shortly. Play with the different stop strategies. And then my own personal favorite, go into your indicator window, find your Raptor, pull down to the very bottom, and turn your arrows off. In fact, you could build your own little workspace just for this, and you could call it practice or whatever. And then just grab your scroll bar and drag it anywhere on the chart, and then just go forward bar by bar. And when you see a signal, pause and decide, all right, is this a trade I'm going to take? Why am I going to take it? Oh, it looks like, okay, I haven't tested the extreme. I might have a selling opportunity. You see, without the little arrows, though, there to prompt you, because these arrows will fill in the margin. Excuse me, I had a little coughing fit there. The arrows will fill in the margin, and you could be left with it could prompt you to take a trade or pass on a trade. But when you do it this way, without the arrows highlighted, it actually forces you to, live the trade as though it were in real time. And now it comes, decision time. Am I running a break-even trigger? Okay, well, if I am, it probably tripped my break-even. Okay, now I'm at break-even. Do I want to take profit? Do I want to run it out? All right, so I took profit. How would this trade play out if I decided to leave a runner in play? Okay, it looks like I would have been stopped at break even. And just doing those little exercises, just those random little exercises, and you will make mistakes. It's just like when you're learning to ride a bike, you fall over once in a while. But better to fall over when you're practicing paper trading than when you've got real money on the line. And I think that is the fastest way for you to learn, is just to start playing with your tools. And I think play is the appropriate word for that, because you want to keep it light. You don't want to get all down on yourself because the market is throwing you a couple of curveballs. And so here's that counter trend trade I was looking for. I don't think I want to go in for the full amount. So you see what I've done there? Instead of dialing down the risk amount, I've just gone straight to manual mode. And now I'll set my prices to buy above that little swing high. I'll cover below the low, and that will be my trade. This is now my counter trend trade. I'm looking for the market to potentially reverse. Okay, now I've got a hard edge sell signal, right? So now the whole thing replays itself. Do I try to short the market now? Of course, this all happening in real time, but when you're learning, it's easier to do it after. It's easier to do it after the, or while the market is not unfolding, is what I'm trying to say. Andres is asking, does the system allow playback? Yes, you can do the market replay. So to do market replay, and there's videos online from Ninja to show you how to do this. But what you need to do is you need to go to your utilities, and then you will download replay data. And then from here, you're going to select what market it is you want to download your data for. Now, market replay is all well and good, but sometimes there's a temptation to speed it up because the bars are unfolding rather slowly. And you may end up turning it all into more of a video game than a training exercise. Personally, I find just rolling your chart back and just stopping at random and looking at the signals as they develop and trying to make a trading decision just as useful as doing market replay. And it's a little bit more convenient, I think. The members area, David, I meant is at Indicator Warehouse. The Indicator Warehouse members forum and archive. If you don't have the address for that, please check with Adam. And I'll give you Adam's email if you don't have it. It's quite simple, adam@indicatorwarehouse.com. And he can direct you to the forum. It could be, Andres is saying possibly news upcoming that makes the 6E as well as other instruments lose liquidity. Yes. Typically with the 6E, later in the morning like this, it's because the London session is closing. Traders are hitting the pub. Don't want to cut into my drinking time. It is England after all. Here we go. Thanks, Andres. He's done the courtesy of providing me with the link to the Indicator Warehouse training area. All right, so now we're producing another soft edge buy. The yellow bars, when you see yellow bars clustering and the market starting to drift sideways, that's usually when we anticipate retrace. Aiden asking, I watched your introduction to DTS part 1 video, probably an old video. That could be, Aiden, because the DTS system has been out for about 5 or 6 years now. I guess we should brush up some of those. But he asks, you don't go over the real basics, like what the birds are drawing, what you would consider a valid signal, what the arrows mean, etc. Do you remember if there is a video with those basics? Oh, no, I don't. Ray Burke did a lot of those videos as well. But quite simply, here are the nuts and bolts for your DTS system. And I guess I'll show you here on the Falcon. When some of the signal parameters are being met, we're going to get a warning dot along with an audio alert. This is to draw our attention to the market and chart in question, that there is a trade potentially developing. When all the signal parameters are met, the system will print a triangle and a hash mark. And this is true across the board. It doesn't matter which tool you are following. When that hash mark is engaged, an arrow will print. Now, because computers are computers and there's no room for any gray area, we had to give parameters to the hash mark. The hash mark will always print one tick below the low of the signal bar. That's the bar with the triangle attached to it. The hash mark is a suggested entry. Because if you're looking at, what was I just looking at? I was looking at oh shoot. I guess I could have taken my trade earlier here. Doggone it. I thought I was already long. Okay, let's take a look at this signal right here. Let's say I'm not entirely sure how this is going to play out, so I want to do a second push on the entry. So I let the signal engage, pull back, and now I choose to place my entry order. But I choose to place my entry order at 56.44 3/4 rather than the hash mark, which looks like it's at 56.43. All right, so it's important to remember the hash mark is merely a suggestion. And it's done for the sake of the programming. Valid signals have evolved over time. When the system first came out, we incorporated a lot more signals. Essentially, you were just looking for an in-sync signal. Any signal where everything was in sync was considered valid. So that included a signal like the first micro-macro cross. It also included signals like this. So long as your filter and bar colors and trend lines and everything were in sync, that was considered a valid signal. But we have since refined the signals a little bit, and now we tend to focus more on the higher probability signals. Now, to that end, I've produced a few what I call cheat sheets, and if you're trading the full DTS system and you haven't found where to download them yet, at the Indicator Warehouse members area, please don't hesitate to ask. I can send them to you, and they look something like this. So, like I said, over the course of time, we refined the signals, and we said, okay, in the hawk, first micro-macro cross is something we want to pay attention to. Macro pullback, 4-arrow consolidation, post-consolidation, red bar buys, green bar sells. You'll notice there's a lot of other signals printing through here that we really don't take into consideration because we've identified these 5 signals as being the higher probability ones. Likewise with the Falcon, where we're looking at trend change signals, we're looking at late filter entries, we're looking at trend line touches. We're not necessarily hopping on every single signal, like we're not looking at a buy signal back here. Now, I do review the signals in the room practically every day. and as honestly as often as you need me to. So if you just don't get the signal, if you're having a hard time with it, please ask. Okay, more good questions. Just bear with me here a sec. I want to make sure I haven't missed somebody's post. Todd left with the eternal trader's dilemma. Todd says, I'm trading a small account. I'm struggling to find the right stops for my strategy. Do you have any suggestions? I need to be taking profits, but I don't want to be missing out too much either. Okay. What I tend to do when it comes to stops is, well, my initial stop, I always try to put above or below a fundamental price point. And by that, it's almost always going to default to a swing point. Now, we don't have a signal here, so don't get excited. I'm only going to use the hawk here as an example. But let's say we were looking at taking that signal. The obvious place to me to put the stop is below the swing low, and not, one tick below the swing low, because there's a very good chance if prices come down, it will break that low by a tick and then reverse. So, I'll pull it down a few ticks. If this amount is not palatable, then you need to change your risk amount. Or if you're just simply trading singles, it still needs to be an amount that's affordable relative to your account. So let's say, just as a number, you're trading a $10,000 account. This would represent a little over 1.5% of your capital. That is fine. If you're trading a $5,000 account, this would represent 3% of your trading capital. That's okay too. Generally speaking, anything less than 5% is probably considered prudent. Now, the other side of that coin is, if you're trading a small account, you're almost always going to be better off taking profit on target. So even though your trade may start off like this, you should focus on taking the profit when you have it. I know you're going to end up missing days like this where the market just makes a huge move lower, and you're going to be kicking yourself in the pants saying, why did I not hang on for more than $50? I could have made like $200, or even maybe $250, $300. The answer is because you can't afford it. Until you can accumulate enough money that you can afford to trade more than a single contract, this is going to be your mission as a trader. You are, well, you're effectively a scalper. If you don't like the word scalper, think of yourself as a sniper. It's maybe a little bit more appealing. But that is how you're going to have to trade until you can build up your capital to the point that you can afford to leave a runner in play. Now, it's not the end of the world missing a move like this, right? There's almost always going to be another opportunity to get in. And as I've mentioned many times in the past, you really only need 2 trades a day to make a living as a trader. If you took two $50 trades a day, and you can do that every day, you will make $20,000 a year trading single contracts. It's just basic math, folks. There's approximately 200 trading days in a year times $100 profit a day. That's $20,000. Less commissions and fees, of course, but we're just doing some rough math. I'm sure most of you won't be too bent out of shape if it's 18,000 instead of 20,000. If you are in a trade already and you're trying to run it out and you're trying to select from the best stop strategy, the best stop strategy is simply the one that seems to follow the market reasonably well. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, the market is following the market a little bit too tight, you have two options. First, you can make some adjustments to your settings. You can loosen things up, maybe loosen them up some more, until it looks to your eye that, okay, it seems to be following the market reasonably well. I'll go with this particular stop strategy. Or you can just start exploring with different stop strategies. This is why I said, if you take 15 or 20 minutes a day and just play with your DTS system, play with the trade manager, you will learn a lot about the different tools. You'll see all the different stop strategies that are available to you. You'll see things like, how does the swing high-low work? This is the simple moving average stop strategy. How does the bar high-low work? The bar high-low and the swing strategy, by the way, are only going to apply to the last few bars. So it's not like, parabolics where you can actually see the history, how it would have played out. Stop strategies like swing, bar high-low, and the fixed strategy only work off the last bars. So here's the fixed strategy. Currently we're 10 ticks off of the close of the last bar. So again, play with it. See what happens if I go 10 ticks off of the high. Okay, it looks like it's the same, obviously. Occasionally, you're going to get it printing on the wrong side. Like, let's say we wanted to end up buying here for whatever reason, and my stop strategy is on the wrong side. How do I get it to move on the other side? You need to insert a little minus sign if it happens to be printing on the wrong side. So now we are 10 ticks off of the low. And like I said, I'm certainly here to answer your questions, but you will learn a lot just by using the tools. There's really, sometimes there's no substitute for actually experiencing the tools, using them. You should get away from the idea of over-optimization, however. There are no absolutes in trading. So if it's working, it's probably working good enough. I know people hate to hear stuff like that, but it's true. You shouldn't agonize over things like what's the perfect setting for my super trend or whatever. I'm sure you know what I'm getting at. But yeah, Todd, as far as missing out on a big move, if, like I say, for those of you trading smaller accounts, just focus on building a bigger account. That's really where you're at right now. That's your mission. Should you choose to accept it, this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. So I'm still trying to get this soft edge buy here. Maybe shooting myself in the foot again. We could see a little uptick though if this fills, if we break above this bar. Because let's see, 1, 2, 3, this is going to be push number 4, trying to get higher. And we've been in a downtrend for about an hour and a half now. So obviously very, very strong downtrend, but a little bit of profit taking might be all the market needs to see a little bit of an uptick. They keep getting close and then backing off again, which is becoming terribly annoying. Okay. Let's see if we get any follow through out of that right here at the top of the hour. Come on. Just making a few notes here in my journal. So now we've got this little high right here that we're dealing with. The resistance as well as off the secondary support line. 56.45 half. trying. There's certainly plenty of room to retrace here. I don't think there's any question about that. Even traders that like to run Fibonacci levels are going to be salivating at this one. So the 50% up here at 56.62, and then 62% retracement at 56.56. Wow, hit it right on the number. 56.46. Just tagged it on the high, and now we're flinching again. Come on, get up there. Wow. Well, they have entered a little bit of a sideways range here. I suspect that the buyers are going to try to push the market higher, of course. I don't think they're going to recover the trend. The trend definitely down today. We may just end up seeing the market range sideways for the rest of the session. I'm going to try to nurse this trade at least to a break-even type situation. And hopefully the market won't pull back too hard against me. But in the meantime, I think we're going to button up shop for the day, and I will see you again tomorrow for Friday's trading. We'll see you then. Bye for now.